fought the enemies of humanity across 1,000 worlds. No respite, no remorse, no mercy. We are the wrath of the Emperor, his angels of death. But the Imperium lies broken, its armies scattered and reeling. Our foes rise to drag us down, and the galaxy has been torn asunder. On the world of Kronos, we make our stand. We are the Blood Ravens. There is no victory to claim here, only vengeance to enact. Whilst even one of us lives, we fight. For only in death does duty end.
Hello and welcome everyone, Lionheart here, and today we're going to be talking about Dawn of War 4, which, disclaimer, I have actually had an opportunity to play some pre-alpha gameplay. What you're going to be seeing in on screen right now is some B-roll footage that I was sent by the developers King Art Games for Dawn of War 4, which is just kind of showing you a bit of a montage of some moments from Dawn of War 4. I wasn't able to record the pre-alpha build that I was given, kind of restrictions on that. It was still very much reflected that it is very much a work in progress. It's still in development. But today I'm just going to go through some of the key briefing information that they've given us to kind of talk about the game, what to expect from it. And then I'm going to share my thoughts and impressions so far on the mission that I got to play from the preview build of Dawn of War 4, which is also being shown off at Gamescom right now. So, yeah, Dawn of War 4, it's back. You know, it's really weird that they went from Dawn of War 2 straight to 4. Well, what happened to 3? Have to make the joke, I'm afraid. But I will say this to clarify right from the start. This is not a follow-on from Dawn of War 3. This is not a follow-on from Dawn of War 2. This is very much going back to the classic Dawn of War 1 formula, and it is, I would say it's probably more like Dawn of War 1 2.0, spiritual successor to everything that made that first game great, and it's even set within that same universe and same kind of storyline of Dawn of War 1. Specifically Dark Crusade, the events take place about 2 years after Dawn of War Dark Crusade on the planet Kronos. And we'll see some of the characters, Gorguts and the scout sniper Cyrus back as some of the commanders that you'll command in Dawn of War 4. So yeah, it's being developed by King Art Games, so it's not by Relic anymore. So yeah, IP has gone from Relic and it's over to King Art Games, who previously made Iron Harvest, which I've not actually played, but I've heard a lot of really positive things about it. Apparently it was quite niche. But broadly very positive reception to that game, and it's certainly something that I will probably check out between now and Dawn of War 4's release. Kind of see, you know, what to expect if there's any inspiration taken from their work that they did with Iron Harvest. It is due out next year, 2026. No specific date within 2026, just next year at some point. Place your best guess in the comment section right now when you think it might come out. I reckon it's probably going to be in Q3, maybe early Q4 of 2026. I'll be surprised if it comes out early 2026, just based on the pre-alpha build that I got to play, which fair enough could be a couple of months old at this point anyway. But just based on where they're at with that, there's still a fair amount of work for them to do. They've got kind of all the core gameplay mechanics locked down, but obviously huge amount of balancing, performance stuff to do. You know, additional modeling and texturing and things like that for them to work on as well. It's being built in Unity as well, which is I don't know what engine Dawn of War 1, 2, and 3 were actually made in, or if it changed across those. But certainly interesting to see it in Unity for Dawn of War 4. Although I will say that does make a lot of sense because of the high fidelity of the models that I saw from the preview build. They all looked really stunning. Really great effects that were in there right now as well, and the animations and kind of fluidity of units. It was very, very smooth, very well animated. And speaking of which, that probably brings us over to one of potentially the most exciting things that they're bringing into the series with Dawn of War 4, which is their sync kill system, which, if I remember correctly from the briefing that we got before we got a chance to play the game, it is that every single melee unit in the game can sync kill in melee another unit. So I don't know how many different permutations or combinations that means that there is, but every single melee unit has a synced kill sequence that it will go through. I don't necessarily believe that it means it. I don't know if it triggers every single time that they kill, but it means that there is the capacity there for every single melee engagement to look pretty darn spectacular. Certainly some of the B-roll that we've been sent has some pretty cool animations with dreadnoughts squishing and crushing lots of different units. Certainly, the different vehicles and mechanical monstrosities duking it out with one another. And triggering all kinds of really cool animations. So they've spent a lot of time in the design creating all those animations, so that it really brings to life that gore and grimdark nature of warfare in Warhammer 40k. There are going to be about 70 plus missions across the campaign that you'll be able to play solo or with a friend. And it's in a story that's been crafted by Black Library legendary author John French, for those familiar with his other works. And there'll be 4 playable factions at launch: Space Marines, Necrons, Orks, and for the first time in Dawn of War, the Adeptus Mechanicus, which will be really interesting to see, all the creations that they have to unleash in the field. Plus, something I'm quite excited for is that on day 1, for release, Last Stand mode from Dawn of War 2 will be back in, which I really enjoyed. Really enjoyed that Last Stand kind of wave defense mode that they added in with that. So that was a lot of fun. There'll be skirmishes and there'll also be multiplayer modes as well. So yeah, four main factions, 4 story campaigns with a total of 70 missions across those 4 campaigns. 10 plus playable commanders, over 110 units and buildings. Many of which have customizations. And in fact, that's one thing I'll talk about a little bit more in my kind of impressions of the preview gameplay and the pre-alpha build I got. The way you could customize your squads was actually really enjoyable, and quite rapid to quickly switch loadouts for your squads. Multiplayer and co-op, Last Stand. They're aiming for 30 skirmish missions and 30 multiplayer maps. And also an in-game editor for player-created content. So they're looking to support, custom maps. I don't know how much further in terms of modding they're looking to go, but it'll be interesting to see that, because obviously, certainly with Dawn of War 1 and the Definitive Edition that has just recently released, that's kind of a big part of what they're focusing on with the Definitive Edition is allowing modders to kind of continue supporting the game for years and years to come. And there's also an army painter tool for unit customization, so you can set up your armies, your Space Marines however you want, and potentially even reflect your own perhaps custom factions or chapters that you've got for your own tabletop models and things like that. So yeah, we said Space Marines, Orks, Necrons, and the Adeptus Mechanicus are all in as the launch factions. Imperial Guard were present in the skirmish mission that I played in the pre-alpha, but you were supporting them. They weren't playable. So I would imagine perhaps that's going to be probably a common theme for the Space Marines throughout their campaign. You'll be supporting guards or saving guardsmen. The standard narrative. The guard are in trouble. Send in the Space Marines, save their butts. They're doing a great job. They're doing a great job. But yeah, I will be very surprised if we don't get playable Imperial Guard at some point in Dawn of War 4's lifespan. I imagine it's going to be DLC. You know, also thinking, you know, if this is set Dark Crusade, for that we had Eldar playable in Dark Crusade. Do we have? I think we had Tau on Dark Crusade as well, right? So there were quite a few more factions that they potentially could look at in, and obviously we've in Dawn of War 2 encountered Tyranids, so it'd be interesting to see if perhaps they show up as well into the mix. What's your favorite faction that isn't currently in Dawn of War 4 or announced for Dawn of War 4 that you would like to see at some point appearing on Cronus? Let me know. I said, yeah, story is being written by John French, so everything I've heard about that is that it should be quite an exciting, spectacular storyline for the campaigns, and I believe that there'll be all sort of interwoven some of the events happening at similar times and different times within the kind of overarching story narrative, and you'll play different perspectives of that across the different campaigns. It's going to include CGI intros and fully animated cutscenes. King Art Games are aiming for a classic Dawn of War gameplay return with Dawn of War 4, and they've been designing their combat system to kind of reflect everything that was loved about the original game, but obviously update it and make it even more bloodthirsty in 40k and grim dark. So again, all those that sync kill system for sync melee kills and the way that units fight in kind of sync combat animations, which look pretty darn slick. That'll be really interesting to see all of that in crazy rich detail. Anyway, now time to just kind of share my final thoughts and reflections on the pre-alpha build that I got a chance to play. As I said, it is being shown off at Gamescom. I think it's behind closed doors, but I don't know if that's something people can queue up for and then go in and play, what have you, or if it's just going to be shown to various kind of press, creators, streamers, medias, and what have you there. So there'll be more people talking about that in the coming days and weeks. It'll be interesting to see, you know, what their next major announcements are. But obviously they've kicked things off with a bang with the announce. So yeah, honestly, initially I was very, very blown away. It looked great, and hopefully that's shown off in the B-roll. See some of the animations playing and all the various characters and units all fighting out over the map. I think there's also some of the animated scenes on there as well that they included in this B-roll. But yeah, the scope and scale felt big, and it felt intense as well. Like obviously it was a very, very scripted mission. The AI was pretty relentless at pressing the Imperial Guard and your positions. If you took one, they were instantly jumping on you. There was a really cool moment within it as well, that when you advanced up, sort of probably midway through the map, it triggered a secondary objective, which was to rush the Orc position, because they were building 3 Gorkanauts, which if they get them up and running are obviously pretty nasty to face. So at that point I dropped in some Terminators, got myself a Dreadnought, and went on a munching spree of many an Orc. That was good fun. Did spend a lot of time zoomed in checking out the models, and they do look really good. It's a very nice kind of visual update, especially kind of recently playing the Definitive Edition. It's a solid graphical improvement, obviously, over a game that's 20 plus years old. But yeah, it's nice to see it updated, and hopefully, as you can see from the footage as well, it was pretty smooth for the most part. The performance wasn't amazing in the pre-alpha build, but it still gave a glimpse of what to kind of expect, and I think the B-roll does a really good job of showing off what it should be like once it's finished. But again, still early days, probably very little optimization and things like that. I'm really interested to see how its development goes graphically and with mechanics, especially with it being in Unity now. But yeah, gameplay felt really responsive. Didn't feel too arcadey or anything like that. Felt quite gritty and felt quite brutal as well. Like if you made a couple of mistakes with some of your positioning, you were sort of punished for that, and the game rewarded you for kind of using overwhelming force or trying to sort of flank positions, or using the right combination of units to counter what was coming at you. The customization of units, definitely want to mention that. So got my assault intercessors straight away. they had an upgrade for jump packs, and you could also then choose if you wanted to equip them with a power sword or a thunder hammer for one of their units. So went in and played around with that, and then instantly, obviously, you get the jump pack attack. The animations and again sequencing of the attacks with their jump packs was really great. A lot of disruption, sending units flying everywhere, instantly kind of changed the dynamic of that unit a fair bit. But just how easy it was to switch between loadouts and instantly spend those points, that was really nice. So that you could create your kind of own custom squad on the fly, but also I believe you can also then switch them. So if you've got a different enemy that pops up, or you've got a different challenge that comes up midway through a mission or a skirmish or whatever, you can respec them by choosing to change their loadout, which I really enjoyed. And obviously you've got capture points. Your requisition and power are back, that we all kind of know and love and familiar with from the series. Pretty standard. You had a few options of upgrading your power. So when you actually claimed a power node, it spat out 3 other nodes around it that you could gradually build on each one of those, further upgrading the system. You didn't need to build a listening post on top of a requisition hub once you'd claimed it. You just, well, I mean, maybe the first one was called a listening hub, but you didn't have any servitors at all. Everything you were building, you were just clicking from the menu and then placing on the map for all your buildings. And when you claimed a requisition point, it instantly started like its first tier was a basic listening post, and then you could upgrade it, then it would add in guns and higher resource rates and things like that. There were also tech that you could get via your stronghold and your chapel barracks to enhance your Space Marines' different capabilities and abilities in various different ways. So all quite familiar there, but all very functional, flowed quite well. The main thing I didn't feel like I saw enough of actually from the pre-alpha was the kind of cover mechanic. It didn't seem like it had the traditional Dawn of War cover mechanic of light and hard cover. You had a lot of fixed in placements where you could dock units onto. So the opening part of the mission, the Imperial Guard are under attack and they're all docked onto several defensive fortifications, and the Space Marine drop pods come in, smash the Orks to bits, jump on out and cause some chaos and save the day for the Imperial Guard. And around the map, there were lots of other dockable positions you could go into. There were some buildings that you could enter, some bunkers. You could also build some bunkers around as well to jump in and to form up. But it didn't seem like there were the elements of the battlefield where if you know, lots of explosions or craters created, it would suddenly change up the cover that you were presented through the terrain, which I would like to see, because that's something I've always enjoyed about Dawn of War, is that the battlefield evolves as you fight over it as well, especially if it's I guess over a skirmish rather than say a scripted mission, where there are points where maybe you lose ground and you give ground in certain positions and places, and so you end up fighting over the same spot that you fought at initially. But because there's been lots of fighting over it, there's lots of bodies, there's lots of, you know, broken up bits of terrain and craters and stuff. So I hope that that's maybe a system that they're still working on. There's more to it, or just that skirmish map didn't particularly have much kind of terrain-based cover to really interact with. There were some bits of like terrain, or I guess bits of cover that were destructible that you could destroy. So I guess maybe more emphasis is on that if you don't take up the fixed positions, they can be destroyed, and remove that cover. Or rather, that cover is perhaps a bit more fleeting and sparse, so you really have to make or take full advantage of that where it's present. So yeah, Necrons showed up sort of 2/3 of the way through the mission, and the Ork attack that was focused on me kind of then got split between attacking me and then focusing on the Necrons. I was in a really good position with a couple of dreadnoughts, so I was able to just blow the monolith up, and that was quite satisfying seeing that go boom. Didn't really have, unfortunately, much time to take in the Necrons because I blew them up very quickly, but not expecting, you know, the skirmish mission that I played to be representative of any kind of final balancing or anything like that. But what I did play did feel satisfying in what they've currently done as their current sort of balance pass as such. So yeah, I think that's broadly everything that I kind of want to just spit out from my brain, just thinking about my kind of first impressions of Dawn of War 4. I am streaming this as I'm recording this first time, so I'm going to kind of briefly hand over to see if there's any questions from Twitch chat that they want to throw out. And if you guys have any questions watching this over on YouTube that you want to throw in the comment section, drop them in there, and I will do my best to answer them over the next couple of days in comments. Actually, one final thing I want to say is where, when, why, and how do we think Chaos are going to show up in Dawn of War 4? I'd really be interested to know what you guys think and how they're going to perhaps show up. Will they show up at any point, like as another kind of like hidden faction within the story campaigns? You know, are they going to be manipulating things behind the scenes, which they often typically do? Or is this more going to be about all the factions fighting over something still on Cronus? What are your thoughts there? Or, you know, do you think we'll see Chaos Space Marines appearing as part of DLC, along with some of the other factions that we've mentioned in the future? Let me know your thoughts. So yeah, this is something actually, it's a good question here. This is something I've seen quite a lot on other creators' videos, and I think it's probably because I've been watching a lot of other Total War creators' videos. A lot of people have been saying, what impact do you think that this will have on a Total War 40k? Obviously, nothing official has been announced for Total War for an official 40k game, but the rumor mill and speculation that's been going for, what, 2+ years easily now, seems very confident that the next sci-fi or fantasy Total War game will be a 40k themed one. I honestly don't think this is going to have any impact in that. They are separate games. Total War obviously has the real-time battles, but it also has a big focus on the campaign layer and that interaction outside of battles as well. Obviously, the battles are a key component of what makes Total War, but they are also ones that typically play out quite differently from, I would say, Dawn of War, which is a far more classic RTS experience. So I don't think this is going to have any negative impact on a 40k Total War, if that is what's also you know, coming from Total War. We'll find out in December what they're working on next. I think broadly, perhaps they only have positive impact, with there just being more, hopefully solid, decent, great 40k games in the same sort of strategy space. I don't think it's one to go create assembly or look at this and go, oh yeah, let's scrap that idea of doing 40k, or let's delay it because these guys are doing a 40k game now. Like, no, I don't think it's going to impact it. Which Dawn of War did it feel like? It felt like Dawn of War 1 2.0. Like, it felt like a proper spiritual successor to Dawn of War 1. It took those familiar units, familiar styling, familiar combat and mechanics. It's improved upon them in a lot of places. It's added to them in a lot of places, and it's obviously added a whole new visual experience with much more, you know, detailed graphics and things like that. I will say as well, though, you can still right-click on replenishing your units when they're damaged and they lose a unit. You right-click on the replenish button, and it's the same as it was in Dawn of War 1. That little plus symbol, they will automatically replenish themselves when you have the available requisition and power requirements. Do I know if they plan to do fights in space? Not that I'm aware of. I don't think they've said anything about it, but Dawn of War's never done space combat, so I don't think that they're going to go into that. Unless there's maybe like a mission where you're playing across like a spaceship map as such, like, and it's meant to be kind of reflective of like a boarding party or something like that. Maybe, but I kind of doubt it on the scope and scale that they seem to be going for with this, which is very big scope and scale. Much bigger than what we've seen from like Dawn of War 1 in the past. Were there air units? So there weren't any air units in the pre-alpha build that I played. There were Thunderhawk bombing runs, which you could use as a not as a stratagem, a commandment. I don't know what they actually specifically called. Maybe one of those things, maybe not at all. But yeah, you could place a Thunderhawk bombing run when you built up enough points for that. There was also orbital bombardment, which did a stupid amount of damage. I mean, I say stupid amount, it's an orbital bombardment. Of course, it's going to do a lot of damage. That was very satisfying, actually. I dropped that right on the main Orc base, right at the end of the mission, actually. Might have accidentally caught some of my own units in that. They couldn't quite get away in time. I'm still haunted by the crumbling animation of my dreadnought as it got blown up by our own orbital bombardment, but it did take out the Orcs at the same time, so job done. That is where we are going to wrap up this first look discussion. I've played Dawn of War 4, my impressions so far on the pre-alpha build that I played. If you're a lucky duck that happens to be over in Gamescom right now, go try and see if you can find a way to play it, because I believe it is there. And yeah, I look forward to seeing more as it develops. I certainly will be playing this at launch, like full Let's Plays, full campaigns. be up for probably playing some multiplayer as well. And yeah, looking forward to Dawn of War 4 because it is a true return from what we've seen so far to the Dawn of War formula. It doesn't look anything like Dawn of War 3. It doesn't look anything really like Dawn of War 2. It looks like Dawn of War 1, but this latest generation of tech and gameplay and mechanics, which is broadly what the community want for the next title. So fingers crossed, it's a pretty solid entry. So we'll see next year, whenever it comes out in 2026. Until then, take care and ciao for now.